All right, welcome back for another edition of Calhoun County's Most Wanted, the program where you get to help make Calhoun County a better and safer place. I'm Chris Wright, along with our sheriff, Matthew Wade. Good to see you, Sheriff.
It's always good to be on the show. You know, every time you do that, I still kind of, the sheriff part's still kind of new to me.
You expect me to say Larry?
Chief deputy, you know, so it's still getting used to that. But, you know, it's great to be here. It's always good to be the sheriff and get the chance to help people. So really thankful that you watch our show, and we're really blessed that you've never let us down. We've got 2 more arrests this week. That brings our count up to 4,160 people put in jail, all because somebody wanted to speak up and be helpful, and we just can't do it without you.
I'm looking forward to Friday night. I get to hear you play the bagpipes again.
I'll be playing the bagpipes Friday night at the Relay for Life. You know, it's such a wonderful organization. My family's been touched by cancer, and I'd venture to say that most people's families have at some point. I have a brother-in-law that's going through cancer now, and it's just a horrible thing. So the Relay for Life is so much more than just raising money. It brings hope and it brings encouragement to others, and it's just a wonderful thing.
And that'll be happening this Friday night at the Oxford High School football stadium. Throughout the evening, we'll be going from about 6 o'clock or earlier, really, until midnight, and 9 o'clock is when we have the Luminaria ceremony. So if you could be there for that part, that's always a highlight.
That is a touching ceremony.
All right, we need to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have the first half of this week's lineup, and we'll have a couple of wonderful guests that are going to be sharing some very important information with us coming up on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. All right, let's get started with this week's lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. We'll start with Roy Nelson from Oxford. He is wanted on an FTA warrant for possessing a controlled substance and use and possession of drug paraphernalia. Tandrika Higgins of Anniston wanted on bond revocation for 3 counts of possession of a forged instrument, 2nd degree. Misty Montalto of Anniston wanted for a probation violation for obstruction of justice using a false ID. Isaac Perry of Jacksonville wanted for violating the Alabama Uniform Controlled Substance Act, distribution of a controlled substance. Charles Biddle of Lincoln wanted on a probation violation for 1st-degree possession of marijuana. Jesse Trawick of Anniston wanted on a probation violation for 1st-degree receiving stolen property. And Vern Ross of Anniston wanted for violating the Alabama Uniform Controlled Substance Act, distribution of a controlled substance. That's just half of the list. We'll have some more pictures for you here in just a few minutes. All right, we'll have some more bad guys for you here in just a few minutes, but time for some good guys to join us, Sheriff.
Always glad to have good guys on our show. So.
Or good gals in this case.
Yeah.
Lucy Morris, Dr. Lucy Morris, and Kathy Folkley are joining us as our guests today to talk about the Out of the Shadows Conference. And we were talking off the air. Your mother, Lucy, was really the inspiration for this event that's coming up. I loved your mother.
Thank you.
Martha Vandervoort was one of the finest ladies I have ever met in my life. She always had a smile every time I saw her. You probably saw some things that the rest of us didn't see, though, along the way at some point.
I guess not as much as I think folks expect. I did not have, nobody in my family had any idea that she was struggling as much as she obviously was.
It's amazing that can be hidden so much. But you do hear that, Sheriff, don't you? That sometimes it's a complete shock to even the people that know them the best when someone takes their own life.
You know, in law enforcement, you know, everybody, it's such a stigma in law enforcement. They see things, they go through things, and law enforcement officers struggle with this. Probably the majority of them struggle with it. But, you know, they can't get out of the shadows to go somewhere or talk to somebody for fear that it affects their career. So they just struggle with it and deal with it. And depression's real. I mean, it's, you know, it's, people say, just don't be sad. It just doesn't work that way. So, you know, it's something that, you know, you can't help it when you have cancer, and you can't help it when you have these type problems, and we got to quit looking at it as something taboo and start getting people the opportunity to get help without it being stigmatic to them in their job and everywhere else.
Well, and I think that's one of the the beautiful things about this conference, and it is Out of the Shadows, because consumers, patients, clients, family members, and professionals are all invited. And we probably all wear all three hats because I don't think there's anybody that doesn't have a family member or themselves that struggles with some sort of emotional problem, some sort of alcohol or drug problem. And it's hard, and yet we talk about it a lot, but we don't do much about it.
Even with people with insurance and money, there's just not a lot of resources or places they can go. You know, everybody has somebody in their family or knows somebody, and a lot of times they come to me and go, "What can we do?" And I get frustrated because we got money, we got insurance, and it's just not a lot of resources available for them.
But the resources that are available, we'll find out more about that at this conference, won't we?
Exactly, exactly, yes.
You know, I guess as a primary care physician, I can tell you that well over half of the patients that I see have some degree of emotional or psychological pain, and it truly does affect chronic medical problems. You know, depression, anxiety, any kind of mental illness often manifests itself in a physical way, and I think that's under-recognized. You know, the root of a lot of problems that cost major dollars is, you know, the psychiatric issues that people may be dealing with.
Since this sprung from your mother's case, tell us, if you don't mind, a little bit about your mother and how we got to where we are today.
Well, my mom was the best mom. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, one of my greatest accomplishments was getting her on camera one time. She would never get on camera, and she did it for me one time. And I know it's not easy for you, and I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, she touched, obviously, the lives of my family and her friends, but
Hundreds of others.
Thousands.
Yeah.
I just moved back home in August, and I cannot tell you the number of random people that have told me about how my mom helped them. And oftentimes it was with some sort of mental illness being the root of a problem. And she wasn't, I would say she wasn't publicly very vocal about her personal experience, but when people came to her, individually, she affected many, many people's lives in a positive way. And so I guess how we got here today, I was very honored when Brenda Stedham, who is a local lawyer that kind of organized this summit, came to me and told me that my mom's death kind of made her want to do something to make a change. So the Community Foundation, RMC Foundation, JSU, and others, the Sheriff's Department, all came together and created this summit. And this is something I've been passionate about for years, both as a physician, and as somebody who's had a family member, commit suicide, but also I've had my own personal experiences with mental illness, and this is a chance that I haven't had to try to make a difference.
I'm going to tell a real...
Let's take a quick break, and we'll get back together here in just a second and talk more about all the specifics and regroup when we come back on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. All right, here's the second half of this week's lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. Melissa Vermillion of Anniston wanted for a probation violation for second-degree assault. Howard Davis of Anniston wanted for violating the Alabama Uniform Controlled Substance Act, distribution of a controlled substance. Matthew Davis of Piedmont wanted on bond revocation for possessing a controlled substance. Devontae Jackson of Anniston wanted for violating the Alabama Uniform Controlled Substance Act, distribution of a controlled substance. Larry Cato of Anniston wanted on a probation violation for receiving stolen property third degree and burglary third degree. Dariante Duncan of Anniston wanted for violating the Alabama Uniform Controlled Substance Act, distribution of a controlled substance. Recognize any of these folks? Know where we can find them? If so, please call Calhoun County Crime Stoppers. You could get a cash reward of up to $1,000. The number is 256-238-1414. All right, we are back on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. We'll have the Crime Stoppers segment of the show here in just a few minutes and our Crazy Criminal of the Week. But right now, Lucy and Kathy have been sharing with us about the Out of the Shadows conference that's coming up. And we were just hearing about your mom, Lucy, and Kathy, I think you had a story that you wanted to share about Martha.
It is. It's a sweet story that kind of puts paints Martha for who she really was. It was a holiday. I don't know if she and maybe you were in the car. Another family member was in the car, and there was a homeless person. You know, Martha ran Interfaith Ministries. Someone was missing, and she could not go home till they found this person. And does this ring a bell?
Yeah, I would drive down Quintard, and Mama would say, "That's Henry. There's so and so." She knew all the people that you would, you know, a lot of folks didn't know their name and just had some label for them. But Christmas, Kathy's talking about a Christmas Eve when my mom knew where a lady parked her car to sleep, and she had a stocking for her. So Mom and I were very close to missing our Christmas Eve service because we were trying to find, she wasn't in her typical spot, so we were looking for this lady, but she had a huge heart for folks that society tends to overlook.
She saw the true person. We meet so many people every day, but we don't really meet the people. We see them, and we might say, well, there's a plumber and there's a teller.
Right.
Your mother saw Joe and whoever. She knew who they were, not their name and occupation. She knew them.
Right. She did.
She did.
So we've got this Out of the Shadows conference. It's so sad that we've lost your mother, but we still got so many things from her legacy. And this conference is a great part of it. Tell us about the specifics on this conference and when it's going to be, where it's going to be, how we can participate.
Okay, the conference is May the 11th. It's going to be at Oxford Civic Center, and if I can do a little sidebar here, it was going to be at JSU at the library, Houston Cole, and because of the damage, Julie Nix, who is the director of the counseling services, just walked in to Oxford Civic Center and told the story, and without charge, without hesitation, that's where the conference has been moved to. Registration starts at 7:45. It does run through 4 o'clock. If you can come part of the day, half of the day, registration is through JSU to go online through their continuing education. $5 for consumers, family members, $40 for counselors, nurses, and social workers if they want 6 CEUs. That's the best deal in town. Our keynote speaker will be Lynn Shears, who is the current Commissioner of Mental Health. We have many local care providers. Dr. Chris Randolph, a psychiatrist here in town who's been here for 20 plus years, will be speaking on geriatrics. We have Dr. Andrea Thomas, who's with Grayson Psychiatric Services, talking about street drugs and how it affects.
Dr. Jim Alford.
And Dr. Jim Alford, who's going to be talking about alcohol and drug recovery. I'm
It's the whole spectrum on mental illnesses.
There is something for everyone.
And unfortunately, Sheriff, every family has a need in some way.
You know,
Yeah.
There's an article that come out that said jails are going to become, here in the very near future, jails will be the biggest mental health facilities that we have.
That's sad.
And that's
yeah.
sad. It's not right. And you know, if somebody's ill, they had cancer, putting them in the county jail, people would be outraged. So why aren't we outraged that this is happening to our loved ones now? And it's, you know, when I just have a strong heart for this, that I'd like to see that change somehow. I don't necessarily have the answer. I just know that putting them in jail is not the answer either.
Well, and I think, you know, it's a tribute to Lucy and her family. If the more we talk about it, the more it's okay to get treatment, the more it's okay to help each other. You know, I'm not so sure that the answer is with the professionals. Sometimes I think the answer is with each other, that we need to be.
If this conference is completely full, but it's only professionals there, we will have missed the mark.
Yes.
But we won't, because Highland Health, which is the mental health clinic here, they're involved. Bradford Health, NAMI, which is the
National
National
Alliance for
for
Mental
Mental Illness. We have a wonderful lady, Sue Guffey, who they're bringing folks. So I'm hoping we won't miss the mark, and I'm
sure that
hoping
we
it'll
won't.
be twice as big next year.
All right, so we're out of
Out of
time at
time.
this point, but there's still more that people will want to know. How can they find out more?
Go to the JSU, Jacksonville State, I'm not really webs, Jacksonville State University Continuing Education, and there will be a link for conferences, and they can pull that up. They can also call the counseling department at JSU.
We have a
Facebook page,
Okay.
Out of the Shadows Facebook page.
That's probably going to be the easiest thing for most people if you just
That's-
go on
you're
Facebook.
probably right.
Website
Look for
and a
Out of the
phone
Shadows.
number.
And we'll share it on our sheriff's
And-
office Facebook.
Right, and that is, that has all the stuff, but you can just pick up the phone, which older people like me do.
Young people don't pick up the phone
and you,
anymore.
and you can register through JSU, through the Continuing Education Department.
Awesome. Kathy, Lucy, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you for
you.
having us.
Thanks.
The sheriff and I will be back in just a moment. We'll have the Crime Stopper segment of the show and our Crazy Criminal of the Week on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. All right, here we go with the Crime Stoppers segment of the show. Got a couple of property crimes that we need your help with this week. On April 25th, someone broke into a vehicle on Highway 278 in Piedmont. They stole currency, medications, speakers, a briefcase, some purses, shoes, jewelry, an iPhone 6S, and some other items as well. Between April 23rd and April 26th, someone burglarized a residence on Hughes Road in Piedmont. Nothing has been reported stolen at this time. Do you have any information about these crimes or any others? If so, please call Crime Stoppers at 256-238-1414. We want your information, not your name.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
Well, this is not exactly uncommon, but we're going to go this week to Florida for our crazy criminal.
I like going to Florida.
Yeah, that's where a lot of them are. Today's crazy criminal is an individual who's at a public park, and complaints called in because he was kicking the swans and the ducks at the park.
Yeah, that makes people angry. But I can say that some of those, especially those Canadian geese around here, he might have been defending himself.
Well,
I mean, those
you know,
things are pretty aggressive.
I
so.
could understand that defense, actually, but his defense was that he was practicing karate. Or I'm sure he probably said, practicing karate.
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 Karate. Yeah. You shouldn't practice karate on the ducks and the geese. That's not going to get you any brownie points.
All right, so somebody's down at Oxford Lake and kicking the ducks, and what are you going to write them up for?
We're going to write cruelty to animals.
Okay.
You know, how about you just go. What are you?
Just being a bad guy.
Yeah, I mean, what are you doing?
Is that a crime? Just being a bad guy.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. We're going to have to go look in a book, but we're going to find something because you just can't kick the ducks. I mean, you know, if you're going to practice
Down there with your
karate.
kid, you come out with the kids with some bread to feed the ducks, and you see somebody out there. No, that's not good. All right. Okay. Well, that's all the time that we have for this week. We'll be looking for.
Don't ninja anybody that don't need ninja. That's all I'm telling you.
That is a T-shirt.
That is
Don't ninja anybody that don't need ninjaing. Copyright
Word of the week.
2018,
There you go.
Sheriff Matthew Wade. All right, we'll be looking for you again next week, but hopefully not in the lineup and hopefully not kicking the swans on Calhoun County's Most Wanted.